Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the August 13th meeting of the State Board of Education. I hope you had a good, restful night and had some time to kind of de-stress a little bit. We'll begin this morning with a moment of silence. Please join me. Thank you. Do we have any changes to the agenda? Okay. Then our first item is our reports. Any board members have something you would like to share this morning? Okay, Ms. McFettridge.
Yes, back in June I was able to be on the NASB nominating committee, and so we've selected a slate of officers for the October meeting, and I was able to be there as well to support Dr. Moore with her position of South Director, so that was exciting.
Well, congratulations, Dr. Moore. That's awesome.
Thank you. I think I was the only one.
Well, it was unanimous then.
But I did get to brag on you, so I was very proud to do that.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I have really gotten a lot out of NASB. It is harder with the virtual, but I know they will be having a virtual conference in October, and I've really been able to learn through this time what other states are doing, how other boards are responding. And some boards have much different roles than us, but that's still, you can learn from that as well. So I'm glad to step into that role and continue to work with them.
Congratulations. I know you will be a great representative.
Thank you. Also, I got to visit with Dr. Cleveland in the Springdale School District. I shared the Teach Plus report that our Teachers of the Year had put together for us, and it was fun, and we went through it together, so I appreciated time with him as well.
Good, good. All right. Any other board members? Ms. Dean? I know Ms. Post is going to share this in a few minutes, but I got to attend the Teacher of the Year recognition this past week at the Governor's Mansion, and it was a great day hearing all the wonderful things that teachers around the state are doing. So I won't steal her thunder. I'll let Ms. Post share that in a little bit, but it was a great celebration of wonderful teachers in our state. So I think that'll lead right into Ms. Post. We'll go ahead and let you share our Teacher of the Year report.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning. The first thing that I have gotten to do since I was with you last was attend a Solution Tree conference in Hot Springs, Arkansas. That was actually with my old team from Bell Point and Fort Smith. But it was interesting to get to talk about PLCs and be looking at it through the lens of the state rather than just through a school or a district. It's kind of what I expected. And I do believe that our state is onto something with this collaborative effort among teams, either at the secondary level based on content or at the elementary level based more on the kids that you have in that grade level. But the power that comes from teachers being able to collaborate and look at data together. I was encouraged. I think that we are definitely on to something with the PLC process. And I hope I'm not assuming anything there, but professional learning communities and teachers meeting in teams, I think everyone knows what we're talking about with that. I got to speak to the Arkansas Business Educators Association. That was fun. I went 30 minutes over, which was not my intention, but I was very passionate. And then as soon as I finished, first of all, it wasn't in person. It got switched to virtual, so I was a little disappointed. So I was just staring at my own face at a screen and not really watching the clock. So that kind of lets you know why I went over. I've gotten better since at a couple of other keynotes. But as soon as I finished, the emails started pouring in, and I wanted to read just a little bit of one. This is from a veteran teacher, and she talked about how she had kind of lost her passion. She was in her 36th year of teaching, and how much change that she's seen in students and families over the years. And she said, "I'm sorry to say it hasn't been good change." And then at the end, she said, "Once again, I just wanted to thank you. You've motivated me to really look forward to this next school year and see if I can make a difference." So it's been so encouraging just to share my platform with these teachers and to get that feedback that they are inspired again to hit the ground running, even with all of the pandemic challenges, and just get back into those classrooms and make a difference with their students. So that was the Arkansas Business Educators Association. The big one, I got to go to Space Camp. Y'all, it was such a blast. I did every ride. There's the ride where you are strapped in and you're spinning every kind of direction. I think it's supposed to simulate if your spaceship loses control. Weta, did you do this? Yes. Oh, that was a blast. If any of you want to find me on Facebook, there's video footage you can laugh at. But Space Camp was quite an interesting time. I was there with 41 teachers from across the nation, and really further. American Samoa was there, Hawaii. But it was such an incredible time just to hear what's going on in other parts of the nation and the world, and to just share that same passion with teachers from everywhere, and to know that the battle has kind of been the same the past year with the pandemic, trying to engage students in unique and creative ways. And I think that we all left feeling like we have a new family, that we have a place to stay in any state across this country, just about. And we are very hopeful that Washington, D.C. is happening, and that we will be seeing each other again in October. So fingers crossed and prayers going up for that. Just a couple of weeks ago, I got to speak at Lisa Academy at their central office in Little Rock, and I know that they were sending that out to other campuses. I kept my speech within 30 seconds of the allotted time at that conference. And it was the same, y'all. I walked in, and I'm going to be completely transparent here. I walked into Lisa Academy and I thought, oh, they're kind of fancy at Lisa Academy. I don't know if they're really going to relate with my stories about teaching in alternative education. And I kind of just said a quick prayer, and I felt like what I had prepared for the day is what I needed to say. So I stuck with my plan, and I finished, and I walked out of the boardroom, and this educator just came and grabbed me and hugged me and said, "Thank you. That's exactly what I needed to hear." And I know that y'all know this, but my platform is the empathy gap. And I talk a lot about how I think that before we really address opportunity gaps, we need to really make sure that we know our kids, and close that empathy gap and know what opportunities are meaningful. And the interesting part about Lisa Academy is that they are knocking it out of the park with presenting their students with different opportunities. And so I just really challenge them to make sure that as they are presenting students with all these amazing opportunities, that they are first getting to know their students and knowing what opportunities are really meaningful to those students. And I think that message really resonated with them. So I have a follow-up appointment to actually meet with their principal at the Springdale campus and get a tour. And I think we are going to have coffee, and she's going to tell me about all the amazing things that they're doing. I've had some National Teacher of the Year Zoom meetings since I've been with you last that have been inspiring. Like I said earlier, it just becomes a family that you didn't know you were missing. And then lastly, we were at the Governor's Mansion and announced the top 4 for 2022 Arkansas Teacher of the Year. It was so incredibly exciting. A little bittersweet, honestly, because there's these 12 amazing educators in the room, and you want to get to know all of them and visit all of them because you've read so much about them and about what they're doing in their classrooms. And of course, you only get to pick 4. So we will begin that process shortly of visiting those 4 classrooms. It's going to be interesting. We have an literacy, we've got a special education and alternative education, and I'm forgetting one. Wida, do you remember?
Library media? Wasn't it library
Library
media?
media specialist, yes, and all across the state. So we will start visiting those classrooms and making our selection for next year. I feel like I just started and we're already choosing my replacement. But what a month. It's flying by. But Wida kind of laughed at me. But I said, I feel like it's all about to slow down a little bit. She just shook her head. But I am looking forward, now that some of the summer activity has slowed down, to getting to really plug in there in Little Rock on some committees that I know I've been nominated for, and also just visiting our schools.
We are so proud of all the work that you're doing, and I think it's a needed, your platform right now is what I think teachers are needing for encouragement and then to be able to reach students. So we're very proud of your work. Thank you for all you're doing.
Thank you, and thank you again for the opportunity to do all of this.
All right, good job. Mr. Secretary.
Okay. We have a number of topics I want to cover today. The first one, and these slides are posted, and then we've got a couple of things that aren't posted that we'll make sure you get copies of. But let's see, who is here? Edie is here. And Edie is going to talk about the All Roads Lead to Licensure slide, the Teach Arkansas, some of the work that they are doing. This is very exciting. That we worked with a number of partners to create these pathways so that, in essence, a student who wants to become a teacher can become a teacher with little to no cost. Yeah, y'all go ahead. Come on up. Andy, are you just here for moral support? Okay, all right. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. We are really excited about this. I'm fairly new to the division, and Assistant Commissioner Carly Saraceni has been intent on kind of opening up these pathways for teacher licensure and making sure that we can articulate that when anyone is sharing with anyone in the state, the communities, our teacher pathways. So what you're looking at right now is the initial slide that we've developed, and its purpose is to really quickly tell you the story of how all pathways basically can lead to licensure. And you can come in and out of these pathways. There's a pathway for everyone, and it's going to help us be able to talk through those pathways when we're helping those, especially in, I know Assistant Commissioner Saraceni has probably talked with you all about Operation Lee County and some things that she's doing in our high priority areas. So when we have folks meeting one-on-one with people that may need help kind of navigating this is an easy graphic for us to talk through. The thing I really was intent on highlighting, and I know others definitely wanted this kind of in bold, is the fact that there are 100% online options, so no one has to leave home. We can truly begin working on that grow your own model, which is imperative for these high priority districts. And then the other big thing is this 100% free. So due to the study that came out, TNTP, the missing piece, talked about our shortage areas here in Arkansas. One of the things that came up again and again is the fact that they did not quite know that things are up free. Like there is help out there, and we need to do a better job of kind of articulating that and sharing that message. So this right here talks about that. Now, there are lots of details that people can get into. We're going to have easy links for people to navigate on a website that's currently, we're in the process of developing. So, but these, basically you can have 2 years free with our futures. Not everybody knows about that. So they can hop over to their 2-year institution that we have, 18 plus community colleges in our state. We're working very hard with them to ensure that they are offering the courses that need to be offered as far as, building out that 2-year plan for this associate's degree. ADHE has been a tremendous help to us, so we're grateful for their collaboration in this. But again, it's just to promote that fact that this is free and it's there, and let's use all of these resources to help us fill this teacher pipeline, and very importantly, diversify that teacher pipeline. So, looking at that, they can then move into that 4-year bachelor's degree. And then there are ways to offset those costs as well. We've got a variety of ways folks can then end up with, all 4 years paid for free. We're looking at this kind of through the lens. I have a son in the military, and so when he was, thinking about what he wanted to do, the military is really great about advertising. Come get your degree for free. We're going to help you, and let's put you on the path to a career when you get out. So we're kind of looking at this through that lens. Like, we can have that same messaging in education, to help fill our teacher pipeline. So that's kind of where we're starting with this. Again, this slide goes into great detail on the financial aid pieces. It's kind of a busy slide, so we're working with an outside agency to kind of clean it up a little bit and make it really easy for folks to. Okay.
I just wanted to pause though before, because there is a little bit more information that they have on the presentation that we can share, but I do want to go back just to the slide before. I don't think we can overstate how big of a deal this is. This is a big deal. A few years ago, one of the things that I heard most often as far as from our districts and our co-ops, that it was such a hard struggle to get kids to want to go into teaching because they were going to come out of college with all this debt. And, their starting salary would make it difficult to pay back loans, plus try to have a place to live, a vehicle. And, we have, because of these efforts that these teams have done, have put together a pathway so that a student could potentially finish that 4-year degree, very likely finish that 4-year degree with no debt, with lots of support. And then if Andy will go back to that first slide, another little piece, because when we talk about a grow your own program, and I really want, when you talk to your school districts, if they don't have a grow your own program, we need to ask every superintendent, every principal, every teacher, why not? Because if you don't start that seed at high school, and you're all the time trying to bring people in, you're always going to have people who don't have that background and experience, which we have a lot of career changers who bring wonderful experience to the classroom, but we can also grab them really early. And if that red box up there, we want our districts to hire their high school graduates to be a teaching assistant while they go on to college, while they go through that 2-year and that 4-year program. We want them to hire them and have them working the whole time. Because then 4 years later, when they come back as the classroom teacher of record, they have 4 years of experience. They have 4 years in teacher retirement. And years of service make a huge difference in that long-term retirement picture. So again, all of this, I get pretty worked up. This is a big deal, and we're going to keep working to make it a big deal because I want every high school kid to know that this is an option for them. And if they're going to a school that isn't starting out with an opportunity for them, I want to know, because I want to go ask them why not, because that's where we're going to get started. We spend a lot of time here talking about waivers. In 3 to 5 years, I don't want any of those schools coming back to ask to have their waivers for licensure renewed. I don't want them to do it, because if they do, that means we're failing. If we give them waivers from licensure for 3 to 5 years and they come back and they ask for the same waivers, we have failed. And we now have a solution. So I just want to make sure everybody understands this is a big deal. It's a great opportunity, and I want everybody to talk about it.
I have just a
I'm
quick
sorry.
question. Thank you all so much. And while you were talking, I was actually Googling Arkansas Future Grant because that was new to me. What is the history on that? It says it's the newest state grant. I was just curious, where did that come?
Well, I don't know all the historical perspective on that. I do know that that is something through ADHE, and that I'm not exactly sure the funding source for that.
So a few years ago, we know the lottery, there were challenges, and then as changes were made to the lottery, not just on the scholarship side, remember what it started out was pretty high numbers each year, and then over the years it became a gradual with a lower amount at the beginning. I think it's 1,000 for an incoming freshman now, or maybe 2,000. It's changed several times, but it gradually increases.
2 and 4 years. Yeah.
But as that outflow was kind of diminished, at the same time when the lottery moved under DF&A, they changed some of the marketing, and we've seen increases in revenue. And so there became, for lack of a better word, extra money in lottery that wasn't being used for Arkansas Challenge. So the legislature, governor, higher ed looked at different programs that could be created to create focus on certain workforce areas. And obviously the teaching workforce is a critical need in Arkansas, so it's one of those areas that are covered.
And I would say our higher ed partners get the credit for going through a process and making sure that the K-12 education sector was identified as a priority for those funds.
I'd like to echo that, and I applaud these efforts, because oftentimes when I'm driving down on 530, I see all these billboards for security guards to work in prisons. There's been a huge promotion about security guards to go because the prison population grows. And I think we need the same intensity for teachers, because, every buffet of opportunity, you want secure opportunities in the prison. So you got all these billboards around here saying, come work at the prison. And why? It's because our kids are not in school and they end up going there. So this is a very strategic method to counterbalance that build a prison system, because our kids are dropping out of school because we don't have a relationship with the teacher. That's why I love what our teacher of the year was talking about. Those relationships and those things are critical. So yes, and I'll say this, when you're talking about inclusion and reaching out to the population, Tom Joyner, the cruise ship, Carnival Cruise Line had a problem recruiting African Americans to their cruise ship back 20 years ago. So they were promoting through one generic advertising agency. They were spending millions of dollars, and they said, why can we not get any African Americans to take cruise ships? They said, well, who are you marketing with? They said, well, we're marketing with this firm. When you have to be intentional. You have to be very intentional. They say, well, have you called Tom Joyner, the #1 African American disc jockey in the nation that's syndicated all over the country? They called him, paid him money. Within 3 months, the whole cruise line was filled out. Then now you got the Tom Joyner cruise, and everybody goes. Why? Intentionality. So if that's what we have to do, can't be one size fit all. It has to be that specific approach, intentional to that community. The churches are huge in the African American community to go build your structure, your network, in order to be inclusive through that, because they can reach the grassroots efforts that you're trying to reach. So any way I can help in that outreach, we want to do that, because we just can't say, oh yeah, well we're trying to, and you don't have boots on the ground in the neighborhoods to make those things happen. So I applaud your efforts in any way we can help.
You're exactly right. And Dr. Hill, I have to just throw this out. First off, I love a great billboard. So we are going to include that in this promotion, to really, I don't know if it's the end all be all, but to your point, we need to be seeing this everywhere. Right? So that's the first point. I totally agree. The other point I want to bring up is Assistant Commissioner Saraceni's efforts in this and the boots on the ground kind of model. Those are the things that we're talking about, is where can we go to meet people where they are, and talk them through this process. So the glossies that are going to be made from this are exactly what we can use, so everybody's kind of messaging the same way, and we can help you find your spot in this pathway. And Dr. Pfeffer just did a phenomenal job describing all of this. She is exactly right. And another just super quick point is the fact that we are also reaching out to those that are already in the schools. So bus drivers, custodians, cafeteria staff, folks that are already in these buildings working with our kids. And, they want to continue working with those kids. And if they're already doing a phenomenal job, why can't we help them find their path to, becoming a teacher of record in their home and in their home district?
Good morning. Andy Sullivan, Director of Licensure. Thanks, Edie. And I always hate following Dr. Pfeffer anytime she speaks because I don't sound as intelligent, but I will just make two connections that they've both made really well. And Dr. Hill, to follow you up, we are currently working with Arkansas United in reaching our Hispanic population with the passing of that our DACA recipients are now eligible for licensure in Arkansas, something that is new for that group. And how can we be a vessel to our communities versus us being the leader of that? And what we, when we were talking with that group, she was like, I was able to tell them all the tools we had, and she was able to make the connections. And that was so nice to be able to say, we're now a partner with our communities across the state instead of leading top down. And as you all know, it's so much easier when you do that. My second point is what we want you to share is that if you want, and I tell this to people, if you want to be a teacher in the state of Arkansas now, we have a way to get you there. And that is such a great story to be able to look at someone and say, you've always wanted to be a teacher, and maybe you chose a different path initially. I spoke to an individual from Taylor, Arkansas yesterday, and he called me and he said, I saw your name on the website, and so I'm calling you. And he just said, I've been working down here at a factory, and I have a degree in some kind of biological science. And he said, but I want to be a teacher. What do I do? And so it's so nice to be able to say, I can help you. I can do this. And then as a former principal, when I look at this slide specifically, I had so many paraprofessionals or substitute teachers who were mothers in my community who were fantastic with kids, but they couldn't quit their jobs. They, and so when I would see them, and they were some of my special education paraprofessionals who worked so diligently to help children, and you would look at them and say, oh my goodness, you would make a fantastic teacher. And they would say, I can't go to night school, I have 3 kids. And of course, our online programs were not available as they are now, or I can't afford it. And so to be able to look at these slides, it is so heartwarming to tell someone that you can be a teacher if that's what you want to be today, and we can help you. So I think our marketing ploy is simply to make sure that someone speaks to is able to share that message. So when you see someone, when anyone here is able to talk, if someone says that to an administrator anywhere in the state of Arkansas, hey, you are excellent with students. Have you thought about being a teacher? I can help you. Let me connect you. So it's really interesting. I know the slide, it looks pretty, but the meaning behind this slide is so much more than that. And we appreciate all the work and support that we get from leadership here in making this happen. Appreciate you.
Yeah, well, I mean, I don't want to belabor this part, but I think it's important. Dan, if you could advance to the higher ed graduation or the traditional graduates. Oh, sorry, I'm on the wrong. No, it should be on the same. That one. Yep, that's it. It's hard to read, I understand that, but you know, you look at some of these totals. Out of 868, 374 elementary education. All right, that's not unusual, but that's going to be the largest. But here's the reality: there are some districts that still can't find elementary teachers. You look at Agri 712, 22. This is Arkansas. I mean, really? You know, we have districts that don't have ag programs because they can't find teachers. And you know, one of them was even one of the original charter members of Future Farmers of America. And they're in an ag part of the state, and they're having trouble. This slide points to why. You know, why we need to do what we're doing. And it's statewide. I mean, it obviously there are hard to reach areas, and we've got to focus on them. But you know, this is the thing that we believe will turn around these numbers and start growing it. I mean, just in the sciences, sadly we're used to seeing those small numbers.
We are, and part of what makes this information so important. This is just a snapshot here. And our updates to our Workforce Stability Index will be coming soon. But you may look at that Agri number of 22, and that actually is probably a little bit higher than what it had been. But our numbers of retirees, that's an area where we have a lot of veteran teachers. And so the replacement number is not keeping up with the retirees in every area. So those are the additional pieces that we have to look at. And we want to get to a point where we're really predicting out where those shortages will likely occur. So then, as we're doing this other campaign of please, you know, you need a future in teaching, or you can have a future in teaching, but we can also help them understand and to get a job right here in your hometown, like Dr. Hill was talking about. If we know we not only need teachers in this area, but we need middle school teachers who can teach science, math, or English, or a combination thereof, that even helps us more.
I wonder, and how did those numbers look 20 years ago? I mean, from a comparative analysis, so before the 21st, was that the average, or so that normally, do we have a way to compare
we
by
can,
decades?
Yes, we can go back and look at the year-to-year comparisons, and we can go back, you know, 5-10 years and look at that.
Do we know? Because if we had 868 this past year, what was it like 20 years ago? I mean, what was 50 years ago? I mean, those are the type of trends analysis I think that we need to look at, and you know, because things have just changed
Sure.
you know, so much. But I think that kind of will point us in the directions. Okay, we had 868 in 2021. What did we have in 1991?
So we'll start talking to the team about putting together
Yeah, I'd
some
like to see that
historical
data
data to go along with that update to the Workforce Stability Index, and that'll be a really powerful tool.
And certainly, you know, the general numbers, aggregate numbers, are something to look at, but the distribution is different now too.
Yeah.
You know, we see a concentration in, you know, if you graduate from the University of Arkansas with a teaching degree, you want to stay in Northwest Arkansas. I mean, that's the trend, that's the tendency that we see. You know, people don't travel, they work within, was it 50 miles radius of where they grew up, I think is the data that y'all look at? 60.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So you're not going to see, no matter how hard, and we've tried very hard over the last 25 years to recruit people to the Delta, you know, to recruit people to South Arkansas. You can have all kinds of financial, you know, state financial incentives. They haven't worked. You can have housing incentives. If you, and I think TFA really showed us this. TFA was successful when they could bring, right, Dr. Moore, when they could bring cohorts of significant numbers of TFAs into a region and created a sense of community. Over the last few years, we've seen that number go down. And you don't have that sense of community because it may be only one or two that are coming into a district. That's an untenable situation. So those numbers are going to be different, but I think it's also going to be different with respect to the distribution of where these graduates are going to teach. And that's the challenge we've got to overcome.
Yeah, I really love the fact when you're talking about, the janitors and all those people. It's a whole support system, the bus people, and from a community standpoint, because, the challenges that I see when I go to school, the teachers are working as hard as they can. It's the outside distraction that's leading to the lack of production in the classroom once they get home, and that bus driver has a lot to be able to say, that kid got some problems, because when I dropped them off at home, something's not there. So I'm so grateful y'all looking at the holistic approach, not just in the classroom, because in at-risk and underserved areas is that village, a lack of support system that Sharice's always talking about from family engagement that leaves a void for retention and education completion.
And our bus drivers and food service workers were some of the key people in student engagement last year because they were in the communities when our kids couldn't be in school. And they were some of the most influential people to make sure that kids could re-engage and to help the school realize, maybe who they were at risk of losing.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
You're absolutely right.
Well,
What is MCE? I got stopped by that.
Middle childhood education. So that would be a middle school endorsement 5.8, and the areas are in, you can either do a single content area or a combined content area. Obviously, if you can teach all core content areas in middle school, you're very marketable. So, and as a middle school, you can also earn an endorsement to go 7-12. So you can even kind of extend the areas where you can teach, and especially in areas like math, having somebody who can teach grades 7, 8, and 9, and from math all the way up through the Algebra 1 or geometry, that can be very beneficial in a school district.
all right. Andy, thank you for the presentation, and Ivy for adding to that. As you can tell, we're very excited about that work. The next item I want to talk about, and I think Dr. Pfeffer is going to be coming back on this, it's our response levels. We want y'all to be aware of, we have modified considerably since the beginning of last school year, and for a number of reasons. One, we know more about COVID-19 than we did then. Two, we've had a number of legislative changes, and the previous emergency order expired. The more recent emergency order is much more narrow in focus, in scope, than what it was last summer. So there have been some changes made, but we are encouraging districts again this year to stay in consultation with requiring them actually when it comes to making these closure or pivoting decisions and the extent of those, working with us through their points of contact, through the superintendents, with health department and the Department of Ed. That worked very well last year. I mean, I think if as we reflect on one of the things that helped us have a successful school year was this ongoing communication between the POCs and the team here that was assigned to those. Dr. Britt, Amanda Britt, who was really embedded with the health department. So a lot of things that we've shifted and adjusted for this school year, but Dr. Pfeffer is going to kind of go through what our expectations are and how we're approaching these response levels moving into the school year.
And hopefully you've had a chance to look at the presentation, and so I'll kind of give some general highlight remarks, and then if you've got specific questions, we can look at those specific slides. What we wanted, so the structure, and I'm not sure how many of you remember how we had it set up last year. Every school district has a point of contact, and the point of contact at that local district, it's a district employee who really is helping to coordinate all the information around from the health department, is the person when there are positive cases that helps to make sure all the information is collected and shared, not just with the health department, but it's also then the information is shared with the parents or staff members or students who are affected. That's a big job for somebody at a local district level. Obviously, they don't do everything all by themselves. They have to have lots of support in their district, but that having that one identified person that receives that communication has really been helpful in terms of keeping messages as consistent as possible. And they spend the majority of their time in communication with Dr. Britt at the health department. The other piece we have then is at DESE, we have members of our team who are assigned to co-op regions. Most of them are assigned to 2 to 3 co-op regions, and they are the DESE points of contact, and their role is to work with the superintendents in their assigned districts. We did this last year, and kind of at the end of the year when things slowed down, you know, most of us were hoping, or we really weren't anticipating that we would be working at this same level of COVID response this year. But the team actually asked, can we continue to be points of contact for these districts? Because we've developed relationships and started helping with information and connections for non-COVID things, and we would like to continue that. So I was really proud of them for that, and fortunately them keeping those relationships has just paid off now that we're getting back into the school year. So I just say all that to say I think that having that communication, there's trust, there's understanding, there's empathy, and that's how we're going to continue to help lead districts through this upcoming school year. So with this presentation, the first several slides are around the health-related issues, the terminology, some clarifications. And so from slide 1 to about slide 12 is around those kinds of just reminders. We always want to give districts tools that if they need information to share, so they're welcome to use this presentation with their communities, with their boards. So we just, you know, not only want to make sure we're communicating appropriate information, that we're giving districts tools to use as well. Once we get to slide about 13, this next section, we go back to kind of the Ready for Learning reminders and start off with, you know, we go back to where we started with our plan. And those plans for re-engaging in school this year, that's part of the American Rescue Plan. And that plan has to be updated every 6 months. That plan focuses on the health and safety precautions that schools are going to take in order to restart school and to keep students engaged. If we remember with the ESSER funds, as we went from ESSER 1 to ESSER 2 to ARP ESSER, ESSER 1 was all about kind of that immediate response. ESSER 2 kind of moved into the recovery focus. The third round of funds really were about sustaining and maximizing in-person learning. And so that's really where we are at this point. We did want to make sure we were being consistent with or clear with the information around the required school days, and that we did not have the waivers that districts were operating under last year. And so we included the information there. Talk more reminders or clarification around AMI, and that, you know, there may be cases where an entire district is using an AMI day, or maybe where just some of the schools within the district are. Last year we had some districts where most of their schools didn't miss any days, but a few of their schools may have missed days. We had some districts that missed a lot of days, and so we're monitoring that data, having conversations with those superintendents, and especially those that did miss a lot of days, to really try to talk to them, look at their plans to say, what are those steps you're putting in place now to minimize the number of days that you're going to have to be out if possible. The response level clarifications and updates start on, I think, about slide 21. And Dan, if you could go to slide 23. Yep, right there, please. So the green, red, yellow, that's similar to what we did last year. This year, though, we tried to make it a little more defined so that it was a little bit easier for districts to kind of think through. And what these are describing are kind of the intensity of the responses. Or the ability of a district to continue to have on-site operations. So in that limited response, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, that's where a classroom or grade level is affected, but the school district or the school is still able to stay open for on-site learning. Now they may have some students out, they may have some teachers out, but the school day is continuing. So they're responding to the COVID-19 situation in a limited way. Moderate would be a school level. So you're going to have to use an AMI day for one of your schools. And then the critical response is where the entire district is affected, and the district is having to respond with most likely closures. There may be some cases, and I do want to emphasize, probably none of this is ever perfect science. There's always a what if. We're going to work through those. You know, there may be some cases where a school is closed to on-site instruction, but they may have a small group of students that are there for a certain type of purpose. And if that's the case, we'll work with those individual situations. So, you know, as we've learned, none of this could be a complete absolute, but these are just guidelines and clarifications to help schools with their operations. So do you have questions, specific questions on any of these slides?
Just to get a better understanding of AMI days, you said that if there is an outbreak within one school, that one school can do an AMI and not the whole district. Does that mean each school has 10 days they could do, or does that take up their district day?
Yeah, so we had some interesting conversations about this, and we sat down and looked at how the AMI process actually works. And so each school building has their calendar entered into eSchool, and when or if the school is not in session that day, they can designate that day as an AMI day. So each school building would have 10 days. So if the entire district was closed, let's say I've got 5 buildings in my district, if we were at a critical response and the entire district was closed for an AMI day, every building in my district would go in and mark AMI. Mm-hmm. If, however, we're having an issue at our junior high and high school, but our other schools are able to be open, then we only go in and mark that at those 2 buildings. So you could have a district where these 2 schools have, used 8 days and these have only used 5 days. Again, as we monitor that, because at the point where it's a moderate or a critical response, that's when the superintendent contacts the POC, they enter the information into Insights, and that's where we start having the conversations.
That's helpful. What about if it's just a classroom?
At the classroom, that would be a limited, and so there wouldn't be any kind of notification that would have to be
okay,
done.
So if a
I mean, they'll put it in Insight so we are able to kind of understand what's going on in the school district, but that's not going to be an AMI day.
But the school will have, if they need to quarantine a classroom.
Yes, because they're still open for on-site instruction. I would expect if, sometimes there may be part of a classroom that's affected. They may have to bring in human resources or other types of supports from other areas in their district to cover if they have some teachers out. So at that limited response, it's not requiring them to modify on-site instruction to the point where they're not having, not able to provide the in-person learning.
Okay, that's helpful to know. Thank you.
I was just going to touch on, so would this be the same type of response for like severe weather? So if a school building itself got hit by a tornado, they would go in and put just that school down for the district AMI?
It is, and you know, just to be honest, with the AMI days over the last few years, because it's a fairly new situation. So would have been 2017, since 2017. So prior to the March of 2020, AMI days had not been used very often. And right after the passage of the AMI legislation, I think we had a couple of winters where there were very few snow days needed. So nobody even got close to the 10 days. And then, of course, when we had, you know, had the statewide shutdown, the districts used their AMI days, and we extended it. And last year, we really didn't focus on it as AMI days last year because we had waivers in place and the pivots basically went on. This was a structure that was followed, but not necessarily as clear as it is now. You know, I think when you look at the legislation, the AMI is appropriate. It's alternate methods of instruction. This is what it's designed for. And while each district has 10 days, being able to apply it in a building, that makes sense. Because there are times when you know, have a water main break and it only affects one campus. You don't want to shut down your whole district for that. But you can't necessarily put 500 high school kids in an elementary school just to pretend you had school either, right? So it does make sense to be able to use it in that way.
Okay. So if there are any other questions on that, I'll move on. And Dan, the next one I want to talk about is the pie charts that I sent you earlier. Ivy mentioned the ESSER funds and how, you know, the focus on the spending of those. And I just want to give you a quick update on, this is an update that I provided to the Education Committee earlier this week. And it's a breakdown of how these funds have been spent so far. I would remind you that these are reimbursement funds. So districts make those expenditures in the approved categories, and then they submit those to us for reimbursement. And Ms. Kaufman is here to help answer any questions that I may get wrong, or, you know, correct anything I say wrong. But so the first one on ESSER 1, we have seen about 93% of those funds have been spent to this point. Again, this was the first set of funds that came through. I believe it was $123 million that came to the state. Does that sound about right, Ms. Kaufman? I'm asking her to remember, and she always tells me, don't do that. I think it's $123 million. So, you know, we thought at that point, hey, that's quite a bit of money. We didn't know anything at that point, did we? Most of that was spent on technology, as you see, and systemic procedures. The systemic procedures were those things that they needed to continue operating safely. PPE, cleaning equipment, that sort of thing. And the technology obviously was for preparations for pivoting to virtual learning. Then the next group was the ESSER 2. And these numbers are as of, I believe, July the 26th. So fairly recent. But you see there, the districts still have not spent about 55% of those funds. And that's okay. This isn't, you know, we try to remind everyone this isn't a race to see how fast you can spend the money. This is, what do you need to spend the money in the proper way and make sure that, you know, because you have a number of years to obligate and to commit these funds. But about 45% of this total has been spent, and you see there backing away. The technology kind of went down, and the systemic procedures became a larger piece of that. And this could have been funds where part of the funds where they may have been paying out extra COVID-related pay, extra pay for teachers and that sort of thing. ESSER 2 supplemental is the next one, Dan. If y'all remember, because these funds were distributed based on the Title I formula, there were some districts that were at a disadvantage because they're Title I, although they may have, be in an area where they have poverty or it's not a wealthy district. And I can cite places like West Fork up in northwest Arkansas, or Elkins. There were about 32 or 33 districts, I believe, that fell under this category. They just, I think Poen is probably one of a good example of one of those districts. And because they did not receive as much as some of the other on a per student basis, we did use some of our state set aside from ESSER 2. This was about the total for ESSER 2 was $550 million, somewhere in that neighborhood. So we used some of our set aside to provide additional funding, supplemental funding to these districts. And you see of those 30 or so districts, 32, 33 districts, 68% of those funds remain. So they're in pretty good shape there. And then the final one, ARP ESSER, that's the newest and that's the largest, almost $1.2 billion coming into the state. And obviously there has not been a lot spent out of that at this point. We've also, yeah, it really is. I mean, when you think about I think we get somewhere in the neighborhood of 700 million each year that comes into the state in federal funds. And so in the span of just a little over a year, we've seen more than, well more than double that annual amount. While that amount is still coming in, this amount is coming in on top of that, which creates challenges for districts to understand how to spend their money wisely. Not just this new money, but the money that they're already getting. We've also seen a number of facilities projects. One of the allowable uses of these funds were for facility projects, especially projects that could help enhance social distancing. So you may have seen, if they needed to renovate a space, for a classroom, or a place to expand cafeteria, meal service. The biggest one, though, we've seen has been in the HVAC area to help improve their airflow and air circulation in their facilities. And also a number of school buses have been purchased, which was also an allowable use to either add more bus routes or to have bigger buses to allow distancing on those buses. Any questions on that? We'll give you, we'll continue, I'll continue to bring periodic updates on this, because I think this is of interest to everyone as we move forward in understanding how we're spending these funds. We certainly can. Yes, ma'am. All right, and then Dan, we move to the next one. And this is an update on how we have been spending the state set aside. We've established 4 big projects focused on those areas within the ESSER laws that where states are required to look at how do we support districts, how do we support districts in addressing the issue of lost learning. And it was the power. There was 2, Dan. One was a PowerPoint. One was a Word document. Yeah, and PowerPoint's the one. Well, that's fine. That one works too. All right. You. Okay. All right, so these are the priority projects that we have. This one, we are partnering with the Arkansas Out of School Network, connected with ASU, to provide grants to organizations out there that are focused on providing evidence-based responses for lost learning, after-school programs, summer school programs, and that sort of thing. So it's really open to any organization that provides that type of service. School districts that may be partnering with organizations, boys and girls clubs. I mean, it's a very wide open opportunity there. Dr. Pfeffer has been working very hard on this, and I'll let her talk about this. Tutoring Core is another one. I'm going to just hit the high points, and then Dr. Pfeffer can hit some of the details. Arkansas Tutoring Core, we're launching that. You see there, that is a goal to recruit and train at least 500 tutors. That's the initial goal around the state. And then this week, we launched the Professional Learning Community Regional Network. These are district schools that applied for the Professional Learning Communities pilot. They were not selected for the pilot, but we created this opportunity for those teams to have high-level PLC training and collaboration. Those have been going on this week around the state. And then the fourth one, Stacy has talked about this before, the Smart Data Dashboard, creating the kind of an early warning to help identify students and the needs that they have so districts can more quickly respond to those needs. But Dr. Pfeffer, if you want to add details, please proceed.
Okay. Hope Worsham is on the Zoom and can answer questions about the smart data. So I'll talk briefly about the first three, and then we'll let her see if she wants to add anything on smart data. Regarding the out-of-school network, we had a commissioner memo that went out yesterday. The out-of-school network is updating the deadline for applications to be submitted. Just because of communication and school starting and COVID changes, we didn't get the level of communication out that we wanted to, and we know we've got programs that are having to make adjustments and what their plans are. So we're building a web page where all of this information will be. We can update you periodically, but the deadlines have been updated to the funds will not be, or the applications will be reviewed, and the funds would be awarded starting towards the end of September. So about a month additional time for entities to apply. And
I think I failed to mention, this is a total of $25 million, approximately. This first round, that's the amount that under the ARP ESSER law we are required to spend on lost learning. All right, this first round is $5 million.
I don't think we've limited.
Okay.
We've not limited it initially. That's what we know we have that much, and that can be adjusted depending on the projects that do come in. So it'll go. We have through 2024 in order for programs to utilize these funds for operating.
And we know that this issue of lost learning is not going to be addressed in 1 year. I mean, it's just simply not a reasonable expectation. So we want to make sure that there are things that are happening consistently that are evidence-based. That is one of the requirements that ARP ESSER law makes very clear. This just can't be someone who says, hey, I think I want to start an after-school program. You need to have some data that shows how effective your program is. So that's something that we simply, we're partnering with Arkansas Out of School Network because they have experience in vetting grant applications like this. They have expertise in this area.
And lots of programs already around the state with relationships established, so. Are there any questions about this initially? Okay, and then the Tutoring Core. This, we're getting this moving. So kind of at a big picture, it's to have tutors who are available throughout the state that can help in possibly programs like we're just described with the out-of-school network, or tutors that work directly with school districts. So there are a few different components of this. The first thing is we have been, we're working with the ERZs to help this. So this, kind of falls in line with the Engage Arkansas work that they helped support last year. So our ERZs, because they're located regionally and associated with institutions of higher ed, are good partners to help with help getting this off the ground. So what tutors will apply, and they've done a needs assessment, and they're gathering that from organizations and school districts right now to find out what's the interest in having qualified tutors that would be available. So a qualified tutor will have to go through training. We have a math and a reading program selected, and this is starting with grades K through 8. The tutors will have to be trained in the math and the reading programs. And then the tutors will also be participating in ongoing monthly training. And the different monthly trainings, let me find my list here for some of the topics for the monthly training. So training around communicating with families, training on managing student behavior, training on working with students who are not native English speakers. Those are just a few topics. So they'll be doing monthly training. So to become a qualified tutor, they're completing training and they're maintaining their status as a qualified tutor. So that'll be the role of the ERZ, is to be monitoring that. So recruiting the tutors, getting them through the qualification process, and then getting them connected with an entity that then wants to contract with them to actually do the tutoring. And so the tutors will be receiving a stipend from the state funds if they become a qualified tutor, maintain their status, and are actively working in an organization or in a district. And then they can also be earning money for the tutoring. And so that's the investment that the program will make. So we're getting this moving and off the ground this month. Initially, the outreach will start with candidates in ed prep programs for interest in becoming a tutor. Then we'll expand out into inviting others who are interested in applying to be part of the Tutoring Core.
Have you thought about having a virtual option for the tutoring? Because I think you see where in rural areas that would be very valuable.
Yes, and Missy Wally wasn't able to be here today, and so she's been more directly involved with what it looks like, but there will be options for face-to-face, virtual, or even a combined approach, depending on, and it may be, if you have tutors who are very busy and engaged in more than one entity, they may be on site one day with a group, and then there may be doing some virtual tutoring with others at a different time. So we will be flexible, yes.
Okay, good. Thank you.
And if we can fill that 500 goal, that will be wonderful. If we have really well-qualified tutors, if we exceed that goal, that'll be a wonderful problem to have as well. So that's where we're starting. Okay, and then the next one was the PLC Regional Network, and this one is, as Secretary Key described, an expansion of the work. Two things that are really exciting. We have 53 school districts that are participating, and because the regional network is a little more flexible, they have even added additional schools to join them besides the school that maybe had applied to be part of the pilot. Our own Arkansas practitioners will be helping to serve as coaches with these regional schools. And they'll be working together in cohorts that are supporting each other. So we think that's it's a benefit for those practitioners, because when you're teaching something, you learn it more deeply, you grow and develop even as a professional. So these are principals in model PLC schools that are now going to be serving as coaches for other schools, and they'll also be getting some support from Solution Tree Associates. But it's just helping us to scale up the PLC work and building a stronger foundation for the future. So it's very exciting. And then the smart data, Hope, you're going to be the best one to talk about this. This is really exciting work as well.
Yep. Good morning, Board. Hope Worsham, Director, ESSER Program Director with the Department of Ed. And so, yeah, I'm overseeing the Smart Data contract, and this is exciting. We've been out doing training in the month of July and August. That will continue through September in the educational co-ops, and then also supporting our districts here in Pulaski County at their building. And the Smart Data dashboards are really a way for districts to early identify students who are at risk through a variety of factors. So we're able to pull in data from eSchool, from Tri-End into one place and make that very easy and efficient for building leaders, district leaders, to see their data quickly and to make decisions about students. So things like discipline, being able to quickly see disproportionality in discipline based on race, based on special ed status. All of those things are able to be done quickly in the system. And so we're excited about that. I do apologize. We're excited about that, and the training is going well. People are excited about being able to use the program.
She's making me feel a lot better about
I would say Hope's kids were probably quiet the whole morning until right then. So anyway, and you know, like I said, Stacy has talked about this with y'all in the past, and we wanted to give you an update on all 4 of these significant projects, just so you know that the work continues. We're still moving on these. We feel like these 4 projects stand a great chance of helping schools and our students in the schools and our teachers to really overcome some of the challenges that they're faced with at whatever point we're in the aftermath of COVID and coping with COVID. The Professional Learning Community Project, to me, is one of the most exciting, because the districts and the schools that we have talked to who were successful last year, you look at our PLC pilot schools, there were a number of those schools that were very successful, and it's because they had this embedded. They had these practices, this process embedded in the work they do every day. I mean, it just wasn't something that they did once a week or once a month. It was really a part of their core. And the feedback that we've been getting this week from the training sessions that just started with the districts that are engaged in this process has been very positive. So anyway, we'll stop, see if there are any questions on this. All right, and just a couple of things that on the ESSER funds, just a couple of notes that these charts reflect what we have reimbursed, doesn't necessarily reflect what's been spent, all right, because the reimbursement happens once a month. So don't look at it and say, well, wow, I mean, they still have 7% left of their first round of funds, and think that's necessarily bad. It's not. I mean, it's just a reflection. There's a lag time, and you know, really that's, as I said earlier, we're encouraging them to spend the money well, not fast.
Yeah, I think that slow is better there, because I think we're seeing that we don't know what tomorrow holds, and so, you know, being smart about not getting in a hurry and thinking about how we can best help kids today and also 6 months from now and a year from now. I think that's a
Which
smart
perfectly
thing.
leads into the next note, is that, you know, while districts have budgeted these funds, you know, and they are either have or are creating or wrapping up their ready for learning plans, that, you know, they have to be updated every 6 months at a minimum. I know districts, what they're doing right now with mask policies, they're going in and updating their ready for learning plans because they did not, you know, what was going on 2 months ago is not what's going on now. And we want them to be nimble. We're encouraging them and supporting them to be nimble in making changes to their plans, not just try to stay, you know, stuck with something that was created 6 months ago that may not be what they need to do right now. So a lot of flexibility there with respect to how they can shift things around within the context and within the allowable expenditures of these federal acts that allow these funds or authorize these funds. All right, I think that's all I had for my report, Ms. Newton, unless there are any other questions. And then the next one is the legislative reports, and Ms. Smith, as we said yesterday, she's celebrating her daughter's graduation. But we do have Sheila Whitlow, John Hoy, Jennifer Barbary. They are on from Office of Community Support and Service, or Coordinated Support and Service. And they, if you have any questions, I don't think they have presentations on these, but they're here to answer any questions if you have any on these legislative reports.
Okay. Did anyone have a question on the commissioner's report? Miss, okay.
I did. We have a new certification program for teachers that are teaching online. Did I hear that right this morning? I think there was a report on the news.
Yeah, it is an endorsement. I don't say it's a certification. It's an endorsement. Part of the funds that the state set aside funds, we partnered with higher ed institutions to create a summer program for online teaching, and if they completed that, then they would be eligible to receive an online teaching endorsement. And I don't know if we have numbers on who's completed that at this point, but that's something that we can certainly pull together for you.
We could update next month on all teaching academies.
Yeah.
Progress so far.
Yeah, we did 2 other academies. So we did Online Teaching Academy, we did a Special Ed Academy, and we did a Computer Science Academy. And for next month, we'll give you a report on the status of all those and the numbers. Yeah, it was a very good idea when we were brainstorming of what our teachers need, and thinking of in terms that even if the pandemic had ended, online teaching was something that we believe parents will still be desiring, some, you know, and teachers need. One of the feedback we got from last year is teachers needed help, needed assistance in developing how they go about doing that. So thank you for asking that. That's something we'll get for you.
Any other questions on the commissioner's report? Okay. The next item is the district's report on the ones under state authority. Probably be easier if we just take them and that's each one by one. The first one was Pine Bluff, and Ms. Barbary, I think, is on Zoom with us. Good morning. Thank you for joining us.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
We'll see if any of the board members have a question. Ms. Woods? Mr. Sutton?
Well, I would like to ask just a general question about these districts that are under state control. When you talk about, Commissioner, the ESSER funds, and et cetera, who's making the decisions for those districts that we control as to
No, that's a great question. We have these professionals that we have here with us, Mr. Hoy, Ms. Barbary, Ms. Whitlow, Stacy, and a number of other members of the OCSS team working with these districts daily to determine what those needs are. But we're really leaning on those superintendents to help us identify those. And so I would say it's a collective and collaborative decision that as they identify how they need to spend these funds, then we're working together to make sure that they're all going the right direction. I know Ms. Kaufman's team is also engaged with that process, just like they are with all the other districts. So, it's similar, but I would say from the department standpoint, I could say we have more people supporting that decision-making process at those levels.
Okay.
Ultimately, anything that takes board action, as with all the others, comes back to me.
Thank you.
All right. Dr. Moore? On Pine Bluff?
Yes, I would like to hear an update of the merging of the two districts now that they're officially one, and an update on virtual students for this next year in the Pine Bluff district. I know with all of these districts there was a high number of virtual students last year, and I wanted to know what those numbers and those plans were looking like heading into school next week.
Ms. Barbary, did you hear that?
I did. I didn't know who you wanted to answer. Okay, so Sheila Whitlow worked with Pine Bluff School District last year. We made a transition for this school year, so I may ask her to speak to this a little bit. I'll start with regarding the virtual for this coming school year. I can tell you that Pine Bluff School District partnered with the Arkansas River Co-op to do their virtual academy this school year. They have recently, though, submitted for the waiver to accept higher than the 5% cap, just in case, based on COVID numbers and the adjustments that all of our districts are making. But right now, those that have enrolled in that program are going through the co-op. I'm not exactly sure on the number that we have in that system, but I know we're still working under that 5% cap. Until we get approval for anything further than that. And what was the other question, Ms.?
Just a more general update of the merging of the two districts.
Okay.
Staffing-wise and school-wise.
It's been a big process. We're excited with the organizational chart. We've had several district meetings now with everyone included with our, I guess 2 weeks ago, we met with Solution Tree and all district personnel were there and we discussed the organizational chart. So as far as merging of staff, that's been a very positive thing. Our high school principals, I know, are collaborating very closely because we look at one high school thinking that we might need to fill a role of a teacher at one high school, and we see if we have that availability based on student numbers at the other high school. So I know our two high school principals and our two middle school principals are really communicating regarding if we need to share staff. We're still looking at staffing. We're not completely staffed, and we want to make sure that we're not hiring individuals when we could share between the districts. The other part of closing out was financially. I know Dr. Wanda Van Dyke was working very diligently with our DESI support staff regarding finance. Tracy Webb and Ms. Kathleen Crane and all the support at DESI was very helpful for her because we had to close out Dalloway School District and then start paying bills with Pine Bluff School District. And so that has merged completely. We haven't closed down Dalloway completely just yet. I mean, it's still there, making sure that everything is clear from that side of the district. But as far as finance, we were able to submit Cycle 8 for Pine Bluff School District, and we're working now in the new fiscal year as one district. All bills are now paid with Pine Bluff LEA, and so that's a big positive. That's been with a lot of support, though, from our fiscal department at the department. As far as merging with the community, Ms. Warren had a stakeholder meeting last week, and I was very pleased with the turnout. That's my personal opinion. I apologize for that, but it was a good turnout. The community really did come. We had over 100, I could say over 100 people at the convention center when Ms. Warren spoke about the next steps and what we're trying to do to bring the communities together. We've got, I know that she's in constant communication with large stakeholder groups and looking for representation from those stakeholder groups to help support the district and the merging of that as well. So stakeholder involvement's been one of her big priorities, and I see that taking place. We had another district-wide meeting August 10th with all of the schools represented. We had several faculty that were they bought t-shirts and they had their buildings, and it was a really fun rally for the district to come together. So I see it as a big positive move. There hasn't been a lot of negativity that I've been made aware of, and I think with Ms. Warren's leadership, she's been able to curb anything regarding that. So I think right now we're at a good place. Again, her concern as well as my concern is the vaccination rate in Jefferson County and the parental and stakeholder concern regarding starting school with the new Delta variant and the COVID cases going up, that is. So that would be where we're at as far as trying to make sure to start school. Our first day of school for students is next week, the 18th. We're not starting on Monday, we're starting on the 18th. And so we're still working towards making sure all of our parents and stakeholders know the COVID guidance that we have laid out.
Ms. Whitlow, I'm sorry.
I was just going to say one thing too, as far as the combining of efforts. All the pre-K is now going to be at the Pine Bluff location, the Pine Bluff pre-K. So that was one of those great opportunities, I think, because the pre-K program there at Pine Bluff, I mean, I visited that when Dr. Owa was there. I mean, it's really, really strong. And I think this was one of those areas that were beneficial to the students participating and the families participating in that. We also, Stacy has scheduled some upcoming community surveys. There are stages, and the first stage was we got to get school started. Then the next stage is, what are we doing within the community to discuss next steps, whether those next steps are facilities improvements, whatever they might be. So those are getting, I don't know if they're on the schedule yet, but if they're not, they're going to be scheduled soon for those types of community conversations.
And I will add to the pre-K, we have 17 pre-K classes that we're really excited about at Forest Park, and they've all, they're being trained in our new pre-K RISE program as well. And so we're thrilled about that.
And combining it pre-K is smart too, to build that community unity, I think. That's very smart. Ms. Whitlow, did you have anything you wanted to add to that?
Just wanted to commend the DESI teams that also supported us during this. As the month of June, we worked in focus groups. So the finance, fiscal department, facilities, all of the different PSA met in focus groups with Dollaway and Pine Bluff to just make sure that we had crossed every T, dotted every I before that June 30 deadline. So I just really wanted to say kudos to those people who were willing to support and answer questions. They got a lot of calls from me and from Ms. Warren, and they really supported us during that.
I'm sure it was not always an easy task, but y'all came through, and we appreciate all the hard work that y'all did. Ms. McFetridge, do you have questions for Pine Bluff? Dr. Rankin?
Yes, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit, and you spoke to this a little bit earlier regarding the family and community engagement piece, but on number 4, I wondered if you could just speak to the formation of the PTO organizations that you're hoping to form and to get started there. I'm curious what you are anticipating as far as an engagement rate there. I was really excited to see that.
As far as the way that our district so far has reached out for parents has been through surveys regarding, we posted on Facebook and posted it within certain areas to get the PTO going. I'm not sure about numbers or what it looks like at this time. I know that we have hired a new position, a family and community engagement position, and it's she's a former principal in the district, and she's from Pine Bluff. She's from the district itself. And so with her role, I supported her. We worked together this week, creating specific surveys with flyers and other opportunities for her to reach out to the community. And that's going to be her big push, is to see how can we get more people involved regarding parents and then the community as well. So we're excited for that position. It was definitely needed. Her role will also be to continue to update parents on social media and other aspects that way too.
Thank you so much. I know that that piece is key, so I really appreciate y'all's efforts in that area.
Dr. Hill? Ms. Dean?
Yes, I just wanted to echo what Dr. Rankin said. I was so glad to hear of the community engagement that they were able to get this year, and glad to see that the community is coming out and supporting their students. I thoroughly enjoyed my visit last year, I think it was last fall, with Ms. Whitlow, and I thoroughly enjoyed the pre-K, so I'm glad to hear about the expansion there. The 17 classrooms there at the Pine Bluff campus. I wanted to know, I'm glad to hear that there was a parent-teacher coordinator hired. That's awesome. I just kind of want to know what steps we're taking as far as making sure that our students that are, let's see, what's the word? Not just those that are online, but those if you remember, Ms. Whitlow, we had an issue the last time I visited about students that were not showing up to class or not showing up in class digitally. If there's any sort of best practices, something that's laid out to ensure that those students don't fall in the gaps, and that someone is reaching out to parents and making sure that we're finding out where our students are.
So Ms. Barbery, I think you could probably speak to that and the work that Mr. Burgess is doing with the principal, especially at the high school. If you would share some of that work, that would be helpful.
Awesome. So well, I'll say two things. I do know that and I know this is in regards to the virtual students as well, but we do have a virtual liaison person for the district that will be responsible for communicating with Arkansas River Co-op and making sure that our students that are in virtual learning are completing what they need to be doing. But as far as those that are on campus, OCSS has filled a position with Mr. Ryan Burgess. He's our leadership development coach, and he specifically is working with all principals at Pine Bluff School District. So we've taken his focus to make sure that he knows and has met all the new administration that's there. And right now at the high school level, he's worked very closely. He and I have worked very closely with PSA. They helped, we've been back and forth all week regarding our seniors, our upcoming seniors and juniors, and looking at transcripts to make sure that our master schedule is complete so that these students are enrolled in the appropriate courses. Again, PSA has been super helpful by going through transcripts with us and telling us where the kids need to be, what they don't have. We've got a priority list of those that are on time, those that are just maybe one semester behind, and then we have a plan for those that are more than one semester, and we're determining where do we need to make sure that these kids are placed at the high school level. Our focus right now has been seniors, of course, and ninth graders coming in to make sure that we're enrolling them in the appropriate courses, like if they need some remedial courses or just some intervention pieces. So we're working our master schedule that way. Mr. Burgess has been, he's one of our team members that has met with every campus has a school improvement specialist. And these school improvement specialists are working very closely with myself and Mr. Burgess and their principal to make sure that we've looked at all the student data that we have and appropriately put them in the courses that they need. Now, as far as making sure they're engaged in these courses and attending, that will be something that Mr. Burgess is continuing to support the leadership at the building level to make sure that that's part of a plan and a priority set forth. We're excited about it as far as the work we've gotten so far, and again, the support throughout the entire department. We can't, we're a team, but we have a huge team with DESI and with PSA. They've been super helpful this week as far as making sure that we have our seniors where they need to be.
Thank you for that information. I'm so glad to hear that, and just congratulations and thank you to the DESI team and the team at Pine Bluff and those that were merging from Dollarway as well. I know it takes a lot of effort and time to bring those two communities together in the way that you all have. So I appreciate the work that has gone into it, and I look forward to visiting again and seeing what best practices y'all put in order to ensure that those students that may not show up for a couple of days or pop up missing, that we know where they are, what's going on with them, so that we can get them engaged again. So thank you again for your work.
And Ms. Dina, I didn't mention it, but I will also say each campus also will have a social worker on every campus and a school specialist on every campus. So we're hoping to make sure that we work on that as well as part of the plan. Thank you, guys.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Ms. Post.
How do I get in on a visit?
Anytime, just email us. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, I can't wait. I'll put my email in the chat.
And if there's anything that I can do to support or encourage the teachers or students there, sign me up.
That's exciting. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Barbery. I know that's been a lot of hard work go into what we see on just a few pages, but we're hearing great things. So thank you for all of your hard work. We appreciate it very much. All right, let's see if we have any questions on Earl for Mr. Hoy. Good morning, Mr. Hoy.
Good morning, everyone. John Hoy, Assistant State Superintendent, OCSS.
We're glad you're here with us this morning. We'll see if Ms. Dean has any questions for you on Earl School District.
No questions at this time. Thank you.
Okay. Ms. Post?
No questions yet. Thank you, though.
Okay. Dr. Hill? Dr. Rankin? Ms. McFettridge? Dr. Moore?
I wanted to ask about staffing for this school year, as well as what virtual programming is looking like and how many students will be doing it virtually.
Okay, I'm glad I got a question, because I was thinking, oh no, we're not going to even get a question, not going to get a chance to respond to some stuff. So in terms of virtual option, Dr. Moore, Earl is not looking at doing a virtual option this year. We intend to get back in school. Our students did not necessarily do well with virtual, the few that did it last year. However, a lot of them came to campus. Earl was one of those districts that said, hey, if you're going to play sports or be a cheerleader or whatever, you got to be on site. And if you got your cheerleaders and your athletic teams on site, it encourages a lot of the other students to come on site. So we were pretty successful with that. We are hoping that we are able to stay with that during the course of the year. We know the Delta variant is real. That's why on this particular weekend, when we have our vaccination clinic, we are going to open that up to students as well. So we're looking at having a good year on site, doing the things we need to do to educate students well. Now, that was one question. You asked one additional question. What was the other question?
Yes, staffing. And I know the district has used Virtual Arkansas in the past for some hard to staff areas, so I wanted to see what that looked like this year.
Okay, that is an excellent question. I am so glad you asked that one, because we're doing something a little different this year. We were able to staff and fill most positions, so almost everything is done. The only two that we had the extreme difficulty filling were high-level math, high-level science. However, I will tell you, we're trying an experimental approach this year. There's a company out there that allows teachers to teach online virtually, but they do it synchronously in class while the students are in class. There's a facilitator in the room we've got that agenda item pushing its way to the commission, and now we hope that that will be a better fit for our kids. We like Virtual Arkansas, cannot argue about the success that they've had over the years. However, we feel like our students need somebody that's able to respond in real time right now, every day. And that's what we're looking at this school year.
That's great, I think.
So hang on. I happen to be in Earl, and my superintendent is in my ear over in the corner saying they're still using VA for some areas. So, okay, but we're not using it in that high level math, high level science.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Sutton?
Yes, I'm curious, would you estimate what your enrollment looks like for the beginning of the year? As far as number?
Okay, so it's gonna be scared to estimate that. It's gonna be scared to make an estimation on that before the school year begins. I will tell you why. When we ended the year, if you go in my school info, it says we've got about 430 students that we ended with, and that was down 47. I would hope that we don't anticipate going down another 47. I do know with us being on site, no virtual option, there may be 1 or 2 students have expressed interest in doing something different in terms of a homeschool until we get past this Delta variant. So I don't think we're going to be below the 350. As a matter of fact, when I talked to Superintendent Knowles earlier, she indicated to me that at the back to school registration drive with parents, there were 250 parents or so that showed up. So I'm thinking our numbers will hold and be good. It's kind of a very loyal, close-knit community here in Pearl, so we're hoping we kind of stand pat.
Okay, thank you.
Ms. Woods? Any other questions, Dr. Rankin?
I do. I actually saw something in the report that caught my attention was with your parent and family engagement committee, and one piece of that was where you also involve alumni of your district. You said you members on that committee are also former students, and you said that meeting that committee is meeting monthly. I would just be curious if you might want to share a little bit more about that committee and the diversity that I see represented there. I think it's pretty exciting.
Okay, now I've been saying I'm glad you asked that question. I'm going to be honest and say I haven't been to those meetings, but I've heard about some of them, and I will make an attempt to fix that this year. I've been kind of going between 2 districts, so this year I get to focus on one. It gives me a better opportunity to kind of ratchet in. So I do know that they have a very, very active community engagement piece here. I heard you all talking about the PTO that's getting ready to form in Pine Bluff. I will tell you, they formed one already in Earl School District, and they are very engaged in conversations with the superintendent about what the goings on in the school and in the district. I will tell you that the Earl Alumni Club, as well as the Cardinal Club and other clubs, are doing things progressively to assist with the school district. They care about the district. As a matter of fact, they've been looking at ways to donate money to the school to be able to do some ongoing work in the school. So when you talk about parent and community engagement, it's pretty strong in Earl. As a matter of fact, I know I had one survey that I linked at one time. However, that survey didn't get very, very many responses. But when I talked to their parent and community engagement coordinator over the last couple of weeks, I found out they also did another survey. They do one like at the beginning when they do that registration, and they had quite a bit of response on that. And the parents will tell you what they're looking for. They said specifically they want more help with homework and with math and with reading. So those were top 3. So my thinking is at some point we will look at whether or not we need to engage in those areas. I think it would be appropriate to do so. However, I'm not the superintendent. By the way, Ms. Newton, if you would give me just a moment of privilege, in case that was the last question, I just want to say something that I know my superintendent feels strongly about. She's listening, and she's hearing you all say, I'm going to come visit again. She's saying, wait a minute, y'all need to come to Earl and see the exciting things going on here. I just wanted to put that out there.
Okay, all right. Well, I was going to give you an opportunity to speak if there was something that we missed in our questions. So there is a invitation to go to Earl. We'll probably take you up on that for sure. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? Maybe we didn't ask a question about that you see going on that is great news at Earl?
Yes, ma'am. And I will speak to it, even though you haven't asked about it. It's the academic results that show up on my report. I want to let you know that as with the rest of the state, we're disappointed. However, we're disappointed from a different angle and a different eye, and we're taking a different approach going in. A lot of people call those autopsy tests because they're after the fact. We've kind of used it as a formative test for Earl School District. We took the time and we made a few calls, and we had Ms. J.J. Walker from the department come in and kind of help us walk through that data to help us find out where we've got the holes that are missing. Because the reality of it is, as I think it was Ms. Dean said, the teachers are working hard. Maybe it was Mr. Hill, I don't know. But one of you said the teachers are working hard. That's true in Earl School District. However, I had an engaging conversation with Mr. Andy Sullivan, and I want to give him kudos for that conversation. He said when he got to that school he went to and became principal of the year, his teachers were working hard too. The results weren't there. What he found was that he needed to fix what they were teaching, not necessarily how well they were teaching. So right now, that was the idea and the push. We wanted to bring Ms. Walker in to get some ideas as to where to look, to find the holes, to fix the holes, to adjust the curriculum. We don't look for any more disappointing results in Earl School District this upcoming year. So that's our push, mission focused, and we're gonna do the right thing for our students. That's all I want to say.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's the big elephant in the room is, you know, I think we all realize that academics we've got work to do, and you know, it's not going to get fixed unless we roll up our sleeves and get in there and get in the muck and start moving around and working on what we've got to work on. And so you've always heard the thing, don't work harder, work smarter. And so I think that's what we've got to do. So I appreciate that, Mr. Hoy.
Thank you. And Ms. Newton, let me say this. We were more disappointed than most in Earl. Here's the reason why. We've done the solution tree work. We've done the PLCs. We've done the formative assessments, and all indications to us that we were going to do very, very well on this test because our students were in place. The question is did we teach the right stuff? We got to make certain we're teaching the right stuff and the kids are getting it. So that will be our push. That's why we brought Ms. Walker in. That's why we will continue to analyze the results. The instructional support personnel got some new ideas from what we were presented. Like I said, we intend to show up with test results that are not as disappointing next year, if at all disappointing.
Okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Hoy. Any other questions from the board? Okay, thank you. Are you starting Monday?
We are starting Monday.
Starting Monday. Okay, so pray for a good start for y'all.
Thank you.
All right. Lee County, back to you, Ms. Whitlow.
John Hoy is a tough act to follow.
I guarantee you, yes, yes.
So are there any questions before I just share just a little bit?
Okay, we'll start with Ms. Woods. Ms. Woods, do you have questions? Mr. Sutton? Dr. Moore? No. And Ms. Dean? Ms. Post?
I don't have a question.
Okay.
I just want to say I'm so glad that you all at Lee County got Dr. Nick Farr to be one of the principals at your high school. I had the pleasure of working with him at Mapleville Middle School when my children were going there, and he is amazing. I've known him for years, and you all have an awesome asset for you there at Lee County. So I'm glad to hear of that, and I look forward to seeing the great things that happen at Lee County.
Ms. Post, did you have anything?
No, it's helpful for me to hear kind of what's going on, and then I usually have follow-up questions.
Okay, all right. Ms. Whitlow, you have things that you would like to share this morning?
Sure, I'd be glad to. I'm excited to. I'm as excited as John Hoy is at Earl. I'm excited to be back at Lee County. I'd worked with them a few years back, and so I'm glad to be back working with Miss Willie Murdoch, who is high energy, and I'm trying to keep up, guys, just trying to keep up with Miss Willie, but she is really focused this year. Last year was her first year back, and so this year our focus, district leadership team met with Solution Tree coach Karen Power first, and then each school has their own coach as well as 2 content coaches. So they're working closely with Solution Tree to really build that collaborative community within both schools. And so that really began the kickoff of what we're focusing on this year, which is the same thing Mr. Hoy and Ms. Barberie shared. We weren't happy with the results of the test, and certainly looked closely at that data to say, okay, what are our next steps? And she continually goes back to, we're going to be student focused this year. We are student focused. We're going to base decisions on the data. We're going to constantly be visiting the data and making decisions around that. She's busy filling positions still. She was still there interviewing as of yesterday. And we're hoping that most of the positions will be filled. She's standing here right now. I think, how many openings, Ms. Murdoch, do we have?
We are looking at one higher level math, one possible higher level science, but we think we'll have it.
Okay, fingers crossed. Higher level math, higher level science are still open, but may be able to fill those. If we don't, we also have been talking to the company that Mr. Hoy shared that would be providing that daily instruction virtually. So we are ready to go with that if we don't fill those positions. Well, I'm going to add something about Dr. Farr. Yes, Ms. Dean, we were very excited about Dr. Farr and have been watching him work. He started July 1, and he hit the ground running as well. So I'm just telling you guys, I feel like I'm going to be tired this year, because if you've met Ms. Branch, she's the same way. So this team is high energy, and I'm ready to join them in this work. But Dr. Farr has done some amazing things already in bringing the team together, and he's working on culture, but also just looking at what do we need to do as far as making sure we engage those students and get them back on campus. I visited with a senior yesterday. He was helping us move some desks around and get some rooms ready. And so I asked him, I said, so are you coming back on site? And he just looked at me like, and he said, yes, ma'am, I am. And I said, well, what about the rest of the seniors? And he said, we're all going to be here. So fingers crossed, Monday morning, we're going to just see kids here ready to go. They'll be wearing their masks, and we have all of the things ready to be safe and caution and keep kids safe, but we do want them back on site.
Thank you. Any additional questions from the board? Thank you. Your team is fantastic, and we appreciate all the work that each one of you are doing in these districts. I know it's not an easy job, but we are very appreciative of your work. So thank y'all for joining us this morning.
Thank you.
All right. Let's see. Well, I think that's it. Did we have any public comments this morning? No public comments, so, all right. While she's checking, does anyone from the board have something you would like to add or discuss? I think we do need to discuss, because I know that, and she just stepped out, Gina sent an email that we might have a tentative meeting next week, so I don't know what the status of that is.
So we have charters who are requesting some amendments, and in order to expedite your opportunity, for the charter panel has to meet and you all have to meet because school's starting. And so that's why we didn't know we were going to be in a rush to get this done, but just the circumstances are what they are. So Deb, do you have anything you want to, any other additional information you want to share with them? And do we know at this point that we will need to have a meeting? Okay.
Good morning. Yes, we need to have, it should be very brief, but we do have some schools that had set some caps, and because of the recent occurrences with COVID-19, they have a lot of kids on waiting list, and they need to be able to serve those kids. So they're coming back and asking for amendments to increase caps.
Okay, and so
that was one of the things you heard the 5% cap Pine Bluff was talking about.
Mm-hmm.
That's the type of cap
For charter caps, for enrollment. So they've got several, especially if they're offering a digital learning program that parents are really interested in, that maybe before they didn't think they were going to need, but lots of things are happening recently, lots of board decisions, and so parents are having to make the best decision for their child, and we want to make sure that every child is enrolled and in school as quickly as possible.
Yeah. And so tentatively, it was set for, Gina, was it Tuesday? Thursday? Okay, so it's August 19th at 9 a.m.? Okay, all right. And there will be a Zoom link for that if you did not want to drive in for that.
So charter schools are not subject to school choice deadlines, et cetera? No.
Open enrollment charter schools are not under the school choice law, but they do have limits on the number of students they can accept. Usually it's even by grade, so depending on the structure of the charter.
But I guess I need to just really study up more on the whole charter school system. But if it's increased enrollment, then those kids are coming from some other district, are they not? And they have to be released?
I guess that's possible that they could be coming from another district, but they don't have to be released. If I understand what you're asking, is that I don't think their other district needs to give them permission to be able to go.
That's it. That's my question.
Mary Claire Hyatt, ADE, you're exactly right. If a child is enrolled in a traditional public school district and they want to attend an open enrollment charter, they would unenroll just like they would if they were going to go to a private school and then enroll in the open enrollment charter. And typically, students have to let charter schools know by July 1st if they plan on attending, so that the charter school can plan and do a lottery if they need to. Lots of charter schools now are increasing their cap, especially if they're a virtual charter school, and they are permitted to take students after that July 1 deadline, as long as their policy allows it and their board allows it.
If the resident district has reached its 3% cap, are they still okay to release?
Yes, so the 3% cap is for public school choice, and that is when you are moving from one traditional public school district to another traditional public school district. That cap doesn't apply when a student is leaving to go to a charter school.
Okay, got it.
We also have situations where the conversion charters could also accept students, but because they are tied to a district, then they're not open enrollment, so it's different. So what you just said as far as the transfers would apply in those cases. Okay.
Any other questions from the board on the meeting next week? Okay, I think that was our last item on the agenda, so was there something else, Gina?
I was just asking Mary Claire about the agenda. It'll probably be Wednesday before the special agenda goes up.
Okay, so the agenda should be up on Wednesday, so you can check for the agenda on Wednesday, and we'll see you, I guess, next week, either virtually or in person on Thursday. Okay? Okay, everybody be safe going home.